Hey guys, what the fuck is up, you guys? My name is eManDance6242 and welcome to a brand new video. I know it has been quite a while since the last video, but you know, here it is. I'm still gonna be making these end of year lists. I'm still gonna be making videos. Yeah, sorry, it has been a while. I have some scripts. I'm a little bit sick at the moment. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit sick at the moment. And I do have some scripts already written that I haven't bothered to do. But you know the drill. You know the drill. I come and go, and I'll go and I'll come and I'll do as I please. But you know. So here's the games from this year. I've not played many horror games, so I might be wrong, but this game seems like an unoriginal modern creature horror. I'm fascinated with the whole backrooms idea, so the locations were neat in this game, but the game is repetitive as hell with the same avoid the monster gameplay with minor differences. The gimmicky horror tropes like making children's music and characters scary, and the whole idea of adding these generic monsters to the backrooms took away from the intrigue of the backrooms itself. This game was fun for the first 5 minutes. The gameplay is fine. After playing the tutorial, you won't get anything more from the gameplay. Fighting bugs and robots is cool and all, but there isn't anything that makes this game worthwhile after a few hours. This game was interesting. It's basically Mario Bros. 1, but hard. It was actually pretty hard at times. I wasn't really expecting that, honestly. Honestly, I probably couldn't finish this game without save states. It can be very annoying at times, but still a decent experience. It's basically Mario 1, but slightly more interesting. I knew this game was not going to be as interesting as the first two Zero Escape games, but this is still the most disappointing game I've probably ever played. Zero Time Dilemma has a lot to live up to. It's the third in the trilogy of two amazing games, plus it is simultaneously, literally, a sequel and a prequel at the same fucking time. The story and characters are weak. The new characters are pretty flat, and the old ones are not as good as their original appearances except for Sigma and Phi. The story is already weak enough, but it's told in broken up bits and pieces. You have to choose from a bunch of different parts of the story, and you have to keep switching between them. The 9 characters are in 3 different teams, but they don't interact with the other teams at all. D-Team with Phi Sigma and the only good new character, Diane, is the only team that's worthwhile. It's not until the end of the game where you get to see any good story, and the D-Team has the only good story plotlines. To address the elephant in the room, the cutscenes and character models are terrible. All the cutscenes are fully animated, and look terrible. The character models in VLR weren't the best, but all they did was stand in place, and it looked so much better. The only good line of dialogue I liked from this game was when Junpei said, "I couldn't care less," because the saying is incorrect if you say, "could care less," because no, you couldn't. The escape rooms themselves were okay. They were much easier and much more stale than previous games. They were alright, but used recycled ideas and concepts. Honestly, this game isn't necessary after playing 999 and VLR. It doesn't do much for those games, and it doesn't do much to conclude the story for VLR. It really sucks that we won't get the game that VLR was leading towards, and we got this mess instead, but what can we do? Honestly, Zero Time Dilemma isn't that bad, but it's still miles worse than the first 2 games. This game is a high-stakes, fast-paced adrenaline rush of a game, but it's fun as hell. The gameplay can get repetitive, but it's a pretty short game, and it's really fun with friends. I don't know how it is by yourself, I only played with friends. There's plenty of levels that add some new obstacles or distractions, and you're like, no way, this is possible. But lo and behold, after a couple tries, it's possible. Maybe just barely, but it's possible. This game is really fun playing with a few friends. The environments are lush and beautiful. The music is atmospheric. I didn't expect this game to be as great as it is. I haven't put that many hours into it, and it's definitely a game I would like to play more, but it is really fun. For being on such limited hardware, the Oracle games push the Game Boy Color to its limits. The season-changing mechanic is great and offers a lot of puzzle solving and world building. The dungeons are not that hard, but still really fun. I think Ages is just barely better than Seasons. Everything that makes Seasons good also makes Ages good. Ages has a better story with Queen Ambi and the Tower. The time travel mechanic is also great, how things in the past change things in the present. I wasn't sure what to expect from this game, but I'm really glad I played it. Gameplay-wise, there's not much to the game. There's barely anything. You walk around, talk to people, and investigate things, but the story is very captivating. At first, Chloe irritated me, but the more I got to know her, the more I liked her. Her and Rachel's stories were so engaging and got better with each episode. I don't really know how much your choices actually matter in the long run, but it felt important making decisions. Even though you were making the decisions yourself, each choice was inherently Chloe. My only issue with this game is that it feels so short and it doesn't feel necessarily complete. I know it's a prequel and maybe I wouldn't feel this way if I played the first game first, but this game was still very enjoyable. Before the Storm just felt like maybe an introduction to Chloe's character and not necessarily a whole complete game. Another really solid Castlevania game. This one takes place significantly later than most of the games and follows John Morris and Eric Lecarde. It's another great and challenging Castlevania game with neat, enjoyable level design, awesome locations, and visuals. This game is great, but it's just not as good as the predecessors Super Castlevania 4 and Rondo of Blood. Being able to play as two different characters from the beginning was very interesting, and of course, as always, there's some really interesting level design. It took way too long to play this game, but I finally played the original Rayman 2, specifically the Dreamcast version, and it was great. I don't remember what I said about Rayman 3D in my 2021 Game Awards, but it doesn't matter because this is a much better way to play the game. It's not the most polished game, and it has some serious graphical issues, but it was a very damn fun 3D platformer. It's solid all around with very few low moments. It's fun and unique, but way too easy. It's jarring after playing Rayman 1, which has beautiful graphics, but was one of the most infuriatingly hard games I've ever played. Rayman 2 is just way too forgiving with health and lives. Enemies are a complete joke and don't matter in the slightest. The slide sections and the vehicle sections were a little more challenging than the basic platforming. And the final boss, though not my favorite, was a little more challenging, but not necessarily in the best way. Aside from those, great game. Just like Rayman 1, I really like the style of this game. I love the interesting locations and places. They're very creative and exciting. I heard Metroid Prime 2 and 3 were not as good as Prime 1, so I was wary playing them. I ended up loving Prime 2 and still think it's one of the best Metroid games. Prime 3 has more serious issues though. It's the weakest overall Metroid game I've played, which shows the quality of each game. Given the other games, I've given scores 8.5 and above. My biggest issue is this game is even more linear than Prime 2 and Fusion, which were a little too linear for my liking. Corruption has multiple planets, which is cool on paper, but each planet feels much less interesting and much less fleshed out as the single planets from any other Metroid game. The game can be repetitive with the 3 main planets. You have to do some tasks and destroy the Phazon core. The cores are really cool looking and I wish you spent more than 5 minutes in each of them. The game added this Phazon Hyper Beam, which is an interesting concept, but it's not designed the best. It's basically a super power beam and it drains your health to use. There are many enemies that are nearly impossible to beat without it, but using it makes the game way too easy. Most bosses you'll need to use it or they'll take way much longer. The bosses are another issue. They are very repetitive. You hit the target, stun them, rip off the armor or whatever to deal the damage. There are also many annoying motion control gimmicks too. The Wii controls for the first two games work really well, but Corruption was made specifically for the Wii, and they shoved too many pointless motion control gimmicks in because of that. Corruption has more of a story, which is interesting. Samus works with other bounty hunters to stop the spread of Phazon, but it's sad to see them all get corrupted and Samus be the only one to make it. As many issues as this game has, it's still a great experience. The gameplay is a lot of fun. The planets are neat. Just as you would expect from any other Metroid game, it has all the same great beats, but with hiccups along the way. I've never been that big of a Sonic fan, honestly. I've played a number of the games and would say a few of them are great, but Sonic Adventure was the first one I felt I could really connect with. I'd say this game is a bit better than Sonic Mania, the previous best Sonic game I've played. Objectively, that game is decently better, but I enjoyed Adventure a whole lot more. I'm sure it's partly because of my bias towards 3D platformers over 2D, but still. I enjoyed Colors a lot, but not nearly as much as Mania or Adventure. This game is fun as hell. I like all the levels except for the casino. Playing as Sonic was a blast. The hub world disinterested me at first, but it grew on me, and I think it added a lot. I wish more time was spent in the actual levels, but still. I really enjoyed playing as other characters too. Tails' levels were just speedruns racing against Sonic. Knuckles' levels were finding the emeralds, and that got kinda slow, but was still very fun. Amy's levels kinda sucked. She was not fun to control. Biggs' levels were straight up terrible, some of the worst fishing in any video game I've ever played. Gamma's levels were also really fun. He was unique and fun to play as. After playing Before the Storm, I expected this game to be just a teen drama, but this was a much greater experience. I'm a big time travel fan and I really enjoyed the use of the mechanic in this game. The gameplay was much more in-depth and advanced than Before the Storm. Decisions had a lot more weight and changed the outcome of the game in many ways. The story and characters were all very well done. The story starts out in high gear after someone brings a gun into school and shoots someone else. The story is high stakes and never lets up. The characters are all believable and real. They could get somewhat annoying at times and way too high school drama-like, but what can you expect from high schoolers? I love the outcome of the story, the whole mystery deal with Rachel and Nathan and everybody, and the whole outcome of the time travel mechanic. It's a damn good game with a compelling story to tell. Up to the point of playing this game, I had only played the first 4 numbered Castlevania games, and as hard as they were, I had save states to make them easier. This was the first Castlevania game I played without save states, and boy was it hard! Amazing level design and fun bosses, a great game all around, but my god, I never realized how much the lives were a pain in the ass. I always had issues with hard games where you had to memorize and perfect levels, but had a limited number of lives, and if you died, you had to do it all over again. You will spend so much time on each section of a level, and once you perfect that section, you'll move on, but the next section will kick your ass until you perfect that one. So many older games were so frustrated because of the difficulty, and save states make many games much more tolerable, but it's still frustrating. Rondo Blood is still a great game that was fun as hell. My issues don't stem from this game necessarily because of how well this game was made, but one that has been ever present after playing a certain PS1 game. This was the first game I've ever played, and I have and will always hold a special place in my heart for it. Yes, maybe it is nostalgia that makes this a perfect game for me, but it still does everything right. It perfectly remakes the games from Superstar while adding new ones. Of course, all the original games are still great. Spring Breeze is alright, it's just a remake of Kirby's Dream Land. Dynablade is another short and sweet game. The Great Cave Offensive is still my favorite. As a kid, it was the grandest thing I've ever played. It's not as grand or as big as I remember, but the locations are some of my favorites, and collecting the treasures was always fun. Milky Way Wishes is another favorite. Each planet was unique, and Marx is still an incredible boss fight. Return of the King is an awesome revamped version of Spring Breeze. It's simple but adds a lot. Masked DDD is by far the best iteration of the character. Meta Nightmare Ultra is fun as hell. You play as Meta Knight and go through all of the previous games. It's really fun to just speedrun those games as Meta Knight. The final boss, Galactonite, is also incredible and one of my favorite Kirby bosses. Yeah, that was the list. There weren't like a whole lot of standout games to me, like games I like absolutely adore. There's the highest game on this list was a game I replayed. Yeah, it's a bit late. I wish I would have gotten this done the first Friday of December, but that's okay. I watched a good amount of shows this year, so the next video is going to be a bit lengthier. And obviously, I have a new chair. Because my old chair fucking sucked. That chair sucks. So I got this gaming chair that I haven't really gamed with. And I'm in a different location, so that's cool. Yeah. So, fuck you.